Welcome to Lesson 1, Selecting a Project. Now, in order to participate in this course, you need to select a project with the intention of completing that project by the end of the course. Now, for some of you, this may be easy. You may already have a specific project in mind that you'd like to complete. For others, you may have many project ideas, but you're not quite sure how to select one to work with. That's okay. This lesson will help you too. And for those of you who are really passionate about your field, but don't yet have a project idea to work with, that's okay. I'm going to cover what to do in that situation as well. So whatever your situation is, this lesson will help. Now in this lesson, the first thing I'm going to do is introduce you to some project considerations. These are the things you want to consider when selecting a project, regardless of whether you have many ideas or few ideas. Whenever I have the time and the desire to start on a new creative project, these are the things that I think about. So let's jump right into project considerations. So it's very important in this course that you select the right project for your current skill level, your current level of experience with creative projects, and the amount of time you have to devote to a creative project. So the first thing I want you to know is that you can go through this course at your own pace. The process that I'm going to teach you in this course will work whether your project is small, just a week or two long, or whether you have a much longer project that may take a year or more. Either way, you can go through the process taught in this course. So you can go through this course at your own pace, regardless of whether you have a small-scale project or a large-scale project. So one of the most important questions you can ask when trying to select a creative project to work with is how much time do you have to devote to this project? So you want to be able to answer this question in a few different ways. First, ask yourself, how many hours a day can you get into the studio to actually work? How many days a week can you get into the studio to work? And finally, ask yourself if there's a particular deadline that you need to meet. Do you only have a month in which to finish a project? Or can you stretch your project out many months or a year or more? So whenever you select a project, this is an important consideration. If you have an ambitious project in mind, but you only have a month to complete it, and you can only get into the studio for an hour a day, 3 days a week, this may not be the right time to embark on something that big. So before selecting a project, you want to ask yourself, how much time do I have to devote to a project? Next, you want to ask yourself, what is your current skill level in your chosen field? If you want to illustrate a comic book or do a series of paintings, how long have you been drawing or how long have you been painting? Have you mastered the fundamentals yet? Are you more of a beginner or are you advanced in your field? Now this is a critical consideration. It's very common that I talk to students who have wild ambitions. They want to create something that will stand the test of time or completely alter the field that they're interested in. But they may have the skills of a beginner. So in this case, you want to keep your expectations realistic. You want to select a project that will challenge you, but not so far outside of your current skills that it will overwhelm you. One thing I often do is choose a project that's just outside of my skill level. It'll give me experience, it'll challenge me, and it'll increase my skills along the way. So before you select a project, you want to be honest with yourself about where your skill level is in your chosen field. The next question you need to ask yourself is how much creative project experience do you have? Now, it's very common that people have advanced skills in their chosen field, but they've never completed a project, or they've completed very few. So just because your skills may be advanced doesn't mean that you have the experience necessary to complete a large-scale project. So if you have skills but no project experience, again, you may want to consider a small-scale project just to help you understand this process. As you gain more and more creative project management experience, you can increase the scale of your projects in the future. But remember, the goal is to do something that is just outside of your current skill level and abilities. You don't want to choose a project that won't challenge you, but at the same time, you don't want to choose a project that's so ambitious that you get overwhelmed. So you need to consider your previous creative project experience when selecting a project to work with in this course. So these considerations will help you select the right project for your current skill level, your current experience with creative projects, and the amount of time you have to devote to creative projects. The goal is that you select something just outside of your comfort and skill level. You want to challenge yourself, but you don't want to overwhelm yourself. These considerations will also help you keep your expectations realistic. I have many beginning students who have grand ambitions to create world-altering projects, and I think that's great, and hopefully they'll work their way up to those projects. But at the beginning, you need to be able to go through this process to gain experience with creative projects and work your way up to the kinds of projects that you want to do later on. You shouldn't expect that your earlier projects are going to stand the test of time and change the world. It's possible, but it's unlikely. You're much more likely to make contributions to your chosen field by working your way up, challenging yourself with each new project. And once you have a higher level of skill and more experience, then you'll be ready to create world-changing projects that may stand the test of time. But for the vast majority of even famous and successful artists, they worked their way up project by project, challenging themselves a little more with each project. That is the most likely path towards creating quality work that matters. So next, I'd like to cover the most common situations that creative people find themselves in when they're trying to select a project. There are 3 common situations that creative people find themselves in when they're trying to select a project to work with. The first common situation is that people are often really passionate about a field, but they don't have a specific project idea. They may have passion and some skills, but they haven't yet come across a project that's uniquely theirs that they want to devote their time to. Another common situation that creative people find themselves in is they have a singular vision for a project. They have a project that they feel compelled to make. A third common situation is people that have many ideas, sometimes too many ideas, and this is a situation I often find myself in. I have many ideas, but I find it's very difficult to select one project to devote my time to. But regardless of your situation, this lesson will help. So first, I want to address what to do if you have few ideas for creative projects or none at all. So if you have few ideas or no ideas for creative projects, that's okay. I recommend 2 things. First, I highly recommend you go back to the introduction of this course and revisit the conditions for creativity. You want to immerse yourself in the work of others, you want to develop skills in your chosen field, and you always want to have a clean place that's set aside for creative work, so when creative ideas strike, you'll be ready to work on them. I also recommend taking my Becoming Creative course. My Becoming Creative course will teach you the tools and techniques that will allow you to come up with creative ideas of your very own. So by living your life by the guidelines I laid out in the Conditions for Creativity section in the introduction of this course, you will have a high likelihood of developing creative project ideas of your very own. Once you have a creative project idea that you want to pursue, this course will be waiting for you. And of course, you're welcome to just watch these lessons and familiarize yourself with the creative process, just to give you an idea of what this looks like. It may be inspiring, and it may even help you develop creative projects of your own. But to participate in this course fully, you'll need to have a creative project idea. Next, let me address those of you who have a singular vision for a specific creative project. Now, if that's your situation, if you've come into this course already having a specific creative project in mind, this lesson may be pretty easy for you. But you still want to go through the project considerations I laid out earlier in this lesson. And in particular, you really want to assess whether or not you're ready for the creative project that you've selected. It is very common for creative people to have one project that they're heavily focused on. A common project is a comic book that people want to illustrate or a children's book they want to illustrate. Now, many people have good ideas for projects and a lot of passion, but if your skills and your project experience aren't there yet, you may want to consider an interstitial project that will get you ready for the creative project that you're truly passionate about. For example, if you want to write or illustrate a comic book or a children's book, but you have no creative project experience or very little, you may want to scale back this project. Maybe create a book that's 5 to 10 pages long, that tells a short, concise story, just to gain experience. You want to make sure that your expectations match your current skill level and your level of experience. There's absolutely nothing wrong with scaling back your project idea so you can learn how to tell the stories you want or design the clothing you want or do the paintings you want without having the expectation that they're going to take the world by storm. So even though you feel deeply that you know what project you want to commit to, you still want to go through the project considerations to make sure that you're ready for the type of project that you want to pursue. Ultimately, the project you select is entirely up to you. I just want to get you thinking critically about where you are with your skill level and experience. My role is to push you to pursue the projects that you're most passionate about, but also to keep your expectations realistic, and to encourage you to develop the skills and the experience necessary to create the projects that you're truly passionate about. So, if you have no ideas or very few ideas, you know what to do. If you have a singular vision, I've given you some things to think about. Next, I'd like to address what to do if you have many project ideas and you're having trouble selecting the right project for you. This is the situation that I am in nearly every time I start a creative project. So let me give you some strategies that will help you sort through your many project ideas and select the one that's right for you. Once again, you want to go through the project considerations. You want to ask yourself how much time you have to devote to a project. You want to assess your current skill level and your current level of experience with creative projects. That will help you create some criteria for what kind of project you're looking for. So if your current skills are at a beginner level, you have little to no experience with creative projects, and you only have a month or two to devote to a creative project, you can take those criteria and you can select a project that fits within those criteria. Now, if you already have some experience completing creative projects, you can ask yourself if you want a new project or if you want to expand on an existing project. So for example, I know with my own work, I tend to work in series. I have projects that I've been working on for years. So whenever I have time for a creative project, I always try and ask myself, am I looking for a completely new creative project, or do I simply want to add work onto an existing project? So if I only have a month or two to create work and a limited amount of time to get into the studio, I'll often decide to add work to existing projects. This can be a great strategy because I'm familiar with the work. I'm not reinventing the wheel with a completely new project. So be open to adding new work to an existing project rather than selecting a completely new project. So one of my favorite strategies for selecting a creative project to work with when I have many ideas is to combine ideas. I try and record every creative idea that I have. I record them in sketchbooks, and I have a file on my computer called Future Work, where I have literally hundreds of brief project descriptions. Now, many of these ideas are fragments or incomplete ideas, but some of them are entire projects. Now, I'm sure that most of these ideas aren't particularly good, but I record all of them just in case, because you never know. So when I'm looking for a creative project, I can go to my Future Work file and my sketchbooks and start to combine these ideas together to see what new kinds of projects I can come up with. The reason this works so well is because many of these ideas are simple or incomplete. They may not stand on their own, but by combining these ideas, often an entirely new kind of project will emerge. So this is a great strategy. If you have a lot of ideas and you're not sure which one to commit to, see what happens when you combine your ideas to create new ideas. So if you're like me and you have a lot of ideas and you struggle to commit to one, first, you want to figure out what project is right for your current skill level, your experience, and the time you have to devote for a project. Once you have a sense of those three things, you can go through your project ideas and see which one works best with those criteria. Next, you can try and combine project ideas. This way, you can use many ideas at once, and often entirely new and interesting project ideas will emerge. Now, if neither of those work for you, here's a third suggestion. Make a decision at random. I know this doesn't sound satisfying, but hear me out. As a creative person, the one thing you want to avoid at all costs is not working. It is much better to spend some time working, developing your skills, and learning on a project that may not be right for you than to not work at all. By selecting a project at random, even if you don't finish it, even if you find out that it's not the right project for you, you'll develop your skills, you'll gain experience, and you will make distinctions, so you'll be more likely to pick the right project the next time around. So if you have a lot of ideas and you're not sure how to make a selection, and the two strategies I discussed earlier don't work for you, then just pick something at random. You can narrow your projects down to as few as possible, hopefully 3 to 5. And then write down each project on a piece of paper, fold each paper in half, put them in some kind of container or a vessel, and just pick one at random. That's your project. By working through it, you will gain clues and insights as to what might work better in the future, and that is valuable in and of itself. Creative ideas are new ideas, and new ideas can only be found in uncertain, unexplored territory. The uncertainty is the cost of creative ideas. And as a creative individual, you must be able to make decisions despite ambiguity and uncertainty. And if you can't reason through a decision, let fate take a chance. Choose something at random and see how it goes. See what you learn. So with all of this in mind, let's get you to your task for this lesson. So here's your task for today. Using the project considerations that I laid out earlier in this lesson and any of the strategies that might work for you, you need to select a project you're going to work with throughout the duration of this course. Your goal will be to complete this project by the end of the course. And remember, you can go through this course at your own pace. You can choose a big project or a small project depending on your comfort level, skills, and experience. Once you've selected a project, write a brief description of your project. It doesn't have to be anything detailed, it can just be a sentence or two if you like. So as I've mentioned before, one thing that makes this course unique is you're going to see me go through this process with you. So immediately following each lesson, there's a short video showing how I work through these ideas on my own. You're going to come with me into my studio and see how I solve these creative problems as they come up. You're going to see me go through the same creative process that you're going through. So in addition to selecting your project and writing a brief description, make sure you watch this video so you can see what this process really looks like in action. It may be helpful for you to watch me go through this process before you make your project selection. So there are two final things I'd like to leave you with in this lesson. The first is that as an instructor, it is my job to guide you through this process, but you need to be responsible for your own creative decisions. I cannot decide what creative projects you should pursue or what creative decisions you should make along the way. If you're taking this course on an interactive platform where you can message me, you're free to share your projects, but I can't get involved. You need to take responsibility for your own creative decisions. I can teach you this process, but you need to be the decider. And finally, you've heard me mention that you should select a project that's right outside of your comfort zone. You want to select something challenging, but not something too challenging that will make you feel overwhelmed. So it's important that you hear this. You're never going to feel ready for your creative projects. And if you do feel ready, if you feel confident you know how to do a project and you can bring it to completion, choose something harder. Feelings of insecurity and uncertainty are how you know that a project is at the right place for you. You don't want to feel comfortable with a project. You need to be able to challenge yourself and to push yourself into uncomfortable territory. That is how you're going to grow. So feelings of insecurity and uncertainty are perfectly normal, healthy, and they are clues that you are on the right path. So with all of this in mind, go watch the video of me going through this process, select the project you want to work with, and write a brief description. And after that, I will see you in Lesson 2, Ideation.